before I go on, I do want to make very clear that my comments today are not about the Chinese people, and certainly not about Chinese Americans who contribute much to our country and are frankly often the victims of the Chinese Communist Party aggression themselves. Rather, when I talk about the threat posed by China, I mean the government of China, in particular led by the CCP. The CCP's dangerous actions, China's multi-pronged assault on our national and economic security, make it the defining threat of our generation. Now, when I described the CCP as a threat to American safety long ago, I meant that quite literally. There has been far too little public focus on the fact that PRC hackers are targeting our critical infrastructure, our water treatment plants, our electrical grid, our oil and natural gas pipelines, transportation systems, and the risk that poses to every American requires our attention now. China's hackers are positioning on American infrastructure in preparation to wreak havoc and cause real-world harm to American citizens and communities if and when China decides the time has come to strike. They're not focused just on political and military targets. We can see from where they position themselves across civilian infrastructure that low blows aren't just a possibility in the event of conflict. Low blows against civilians are part of China's plan. But the PRC's cyber onslaught goes way beyond prepositioning for future conflict. They, literally every day, they're actively attacking our economic security, engaging in wholesale theft of our innovation and our personal and corporate data. Nor is cyber the only PRC threat we face. PRC cyber threat is made vastly more dangerous by the way they knit cyber into a whole-of-government campaign against us. They recruit human sources to target our businesses, using insiders to steal the same kinds of innovation and data that their hackers are targeting, while also engaging in corporate deception, hiding Beijing's hand in transactions, joint ventures, and investments in the same. And they don't just hit our security and economy, they target our freedom.
Hit that like, we're about to start. Come on now, let everybody know we're here.
Silence the words.
Send up the signal flare.
Of our citizens.
Sparklers.
The FBI
assemble.
Laser focused on the threat.
That was dorky. It was totally dorky. I take that.
We've got cyber, counterintelligence, criminal, and WMD experts, just to name a few, defending against it. And we're working in partnership with the private sector, partnership with our allies abroad, and partnership at all levels of the U.S. government, especially the NSA, Cyber Command, CISA, and ONCD, whose leaders I'm honored to be here with today. In fact, just this morning, we announced an operation where we and our partners identified hundreds of routers that had been taken over by the PRC state-sponsored hacking group known as Volt Typhoon. The Volt Typhoon malware enabled China to hide, among other things, pre-operational reconnaissance and network exploitation against critical infrastructure like our communications, energy, transportation, water sectors, steps China was taking, in other words, to find and prepare to destroy or degrade the civilian critical infrastructure that keeps us safe and prosperous. And let's be clear, cyber threats to our critical infrastructure represent real-world threats to our physical safety. So, working with our partners, the FBI ran a court-authorized on-network operation to shut down Volt Typhoon and the access it enabled. Now, this operation was an important step, but there's a whole lot more to do, and we need your help to do it. To quantify what we're up against, the PRC has a bigger hacking program than that of every major nation combined. In fact,
All right, welcome to the show. Oh, it's hair down today. Look out, what's happening? All right, welcome to the show. Happy Wednesday. Yes, it is. Philip Bittner will be joining us for the second hour from Kiev, and there are a lot of parallels to the video I was just letting run. That is live-ish. It's a little behind, but I backed it up a little bit so that I could share it with you guys. By the way, hello chat room. How are you? Good morning, howdy. Hey there. Hey there, Jackie. Hello, everyone. Hello. Hi, hedge enemy. Floofy. What's going on? Good to see you. Roar. Hi. Hello. Back to you. And hello, Sparklers, as well. Motang Clan. Assemble. That's one of the things I think is best about watching the Avengers movies in French is when Captain America finally says, Avengers, Assemble. It's a big moment. Also, I suppose watching him say, I can do this all day in like 9 different languages would be a good afternoon. Sorry. Wouldn't you agree, Captain America? Yes, I would. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Hit the like right away. I reminded everybody, but, I'll do it again and again and again because we have to. It's just a constant thing. It's just a thing. I'm glad you like the background. It's very nice. It's better than this. Hold on one second. It's better than the fucking work desk situation that I'm like. Okay, that's all you get to see. That's all the look you get. That's right. I got a big time studio here somewhere. And also, why is there a hotspot on my fucking? What is that? There's no reason for that hotspot? What is happening? That's not particularly. What's going on? Camera. The lights are the same. They've always been the same. And suddenly I have a hotspot. What the shit is that? The fan's not on. I don't know what's happening. It's wrong. And I don't like it. I'll have to fix it later. And as many of you know, whenever I've got a technical issue, I start speaking with a British accent. It is my solutions accent. It is my keep calm and carry on accent. Now, I am English, Scottish, and Irish to enough of a degree where I'm allowed to use the accent anytime I fucking want. Right. I think that's the rule, right? If you do 23andMe and you find out that you have more than 20% of any particular background, you're allowed to use that accent in public anytime you want. There you go. I could be the newest member of Spinal Tap. I don't think they'd have me, eh? You know why? Because I sing too well and I play too well, and they just can't have that, I like Michael McKean. He's a good man, but I think, standing, he'd be like, who's this young buck, right? Trying to not so much steal the thunder, but steal the rain, Because that's where the money is, the sad songs, that kind of, right? I think so. He's not stealing my thunder. He's stealing the sort of swirly sound that the sink makes right after you've run the disposal and there's nothing in it anymore and it's just water and it's rather pleasurable, but you're not sure when to shut it off. It's like that. My music is like that. Sorry. All right, I could get distracted as shit. Good morning and welcome. By the way, like I said, Philip Bittner will be joining us second hour live from Kiev to give us an update on Ukraine. Now, what I was showing you as we went in, can I just say, was a miracle? And this might be, unless you're watching PBS NewsHour or C-SPAN, the only place you're going to see this. This is the only place you're going to see this particular thing. I'll tell this live hearing on Chinese cybersecurity as a threat to the United States. Just so you know, there is a couple of reasons. One is everybody on this committee, Democrat and Republican, are getting along. It's fucking crazy. That literally I forget what whoever's heading this up. The Republican that's heading it up is like high-fiving Krishnamurti during it, like, dude, I love the receipts you bring. Bitching. Like, it's so, like, this is government just fucking working. They're all pretty much in agreement. They're just looking for solutions. And like, because here's the thing. In all the other committees, budgetary, shit about the border, everywhere except the fucking Hunter Biden blather or the impeachment inquiries, which are a waste of fucking time. Everywhere else, everyone pretty much agrees on what the problem is. The difference is the solutions. And in a couple of areas, these solutions the Republicans want to put forth are so fucking extreme that it either triggers a counter extremity, that's kind of like, well, then fuck you, which is not helpful in a democracy, which is why you don't want fighters in government. You want negotiators and smart people who can roll with an insult, which by the way, Democrats have a lot of these days. It took us a little while to learn that skill, but man, do we have it. Like, none of our people get insulted in even these shittiest meetings. Whereas, like, Chip Roy and that crowd are constantly standing up and walking out, pearl clutching. It's hilarious to watch. That said, the difference in finding the solutions is kind of based on your sort of whatever you're selling to your constituents in a couple of these other areas. This one's not at all like that. This situation, they have Chris Wray, and I think he's almost done with his statement here. And then they have a couple other people. Let's see if I can scroll there. They have this fella. Hold on, let me see. 1 second. Oh, reload, you bastard. Just play. I hate when it does this. It's so sad. We'll just wait. Hi, how you doing? You asshole. Why would you do that? Why? I don't need that. There you go. Harry Coker Jr. There we go. And then there's Chris Ray, and then there's this lady, Jen Easterly. And then there's the current, this is General Nakasone, Paul Nakasone. He's the current head of Cyber Command. He's stepping down and he's going to be replaced, but dude's been around. And by the way, there's a fucking potential shutdown of every hospital in the country, or the gas lines in the east, northeast of the United States, all that shit. There's like a little ribbon for him fixing all that shit. He's also, I think seen action as well, but like, dude is very smart and has done a great job so far. Especially, and what they're talking about largely today is the fact that they shut down this thing, Volt Typhoon today. The FBI announced it today that they basically there was a couple of areas where they were exploiting old tech in the United States. And I normally would save this, I guess, for Friday AI, but it can't wait. It can't wait. I don't understand. Mr. Spock, they've hacked into the dilithium crystals. We can't find our way through the minefield. It's not possible. Nakasone for president 2028. I don't know. He might be a good vice president in that regard. I mean, he could, I wouldn't doubt if he runs for Senate or something like that. Smart guy. Very, smart guy, very smart guy, best guy. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. This is what they announced this morning. Networks controlled by a pervasive Chinese hacking group dubbed Volt Typhoon, which I gotta say, I get where you're going, it sounds like a shitty attempt at a DC knockoff of like two Marvel characters. You know what I mean? Volt Typhoon sounds like a shitty DC character. No offense, DC, but tell you what, when you guys figure out that you write for Superman like you write for Captain America, and then go fucking do that, and then you bring back the sort of emblematic purity of that character in spite of all the stuff, instead of just making him a fucking irritant and a jealous psychopath with superpowers. When you guys work that shit out, because I don't know, whatever it'll take, DC writers, call your fucking parents, work it out, call your ex and tell them you're sorry, and then, I don't know, fucking get your life together, then try to write a character that's aspirational, because that's the fucking point of that character. Get me started. Meanwhile, stop creating characters called Volt Typhoon, which is I guarantee a DC writer is sitting at home watching my stream, as some of them do, going, Volt Typhoon, that says no. All right. The group, have been disrupted by a U.S. government operation, Reuters exclusively reported on Monday, January 29th. The group has alarmed intelligence officials who say it is part of a larger effort to compromise Western critical infrastructure, including naval ports, internet service providers, and utilities, raising concerns that hackers were working to hurt U.S. readiness in case of Chinese invasion of Taiwan. Here's what is known about Volt Typhoon. Future crises. Well, somebody's like saying, can you use your filters more often? I set them up for this thing, and for some reason, it's not working. It only goes to it only flips one screen that goes to the Instagram, so I'll be in character on that and not on this one, and I can't, there's no reason for it. I'm waiting for an update before I could start doing it again. It drives me crazy. Anyways, if I may. Now, the group has alarmed intelligence officials who say it is part of a larger effort to compromise Western critical infrastructure. Okay, future crises. Nearly every country in the world uses hackers to gather intelligence. Major powers like the United States and Russia have large stables of such groups, and they're not kept in stables, I just want you to know, but they do eat hay, which is whatever. Many of which have been given colorful nicknames by cybersecurity experts, such as Equation Group and Fancy Bear. Colorful is they're a little silly, quite frankly. I feel like Apartment 21, I think, is one of the ones that we know, or 27, APT 21. That's active persistent threat. You'll hear a lot of apartment this and apartment that, and they deal with them numerically. Some of them they knock out very quickly, and other ones, it takes them a little while. So as an active persistent threat, APT becomes APT 8, APT 9, APT 7.5, which is part of 7, but it's a subgroup out of there. Most of the time, they just give them a big solid number. And Apartment 21 was don't trust the Chinese agent. In Apartment 17, do not. But this is the knock, by the way, in case you need. If you keep doing that all afternoon, eventually he'll open the door. Or she. Or they, or them, or all of them, or both of them. Anyways, hi, Alyosha. Welcome. You're not late. You're just in time to miss that joke. All right. Experts begin to worry such groups turn their attention from intelligence gathering to digital sabotage. By the way, that was always the point. The Chinese cybersecurity world, the rest of it is their business security cyber attacks, where they steal information, schematics, and shit, and then just try to recreate stuff. They're terrible at it, but they do it anyways. They've stole like the plans for the F-22, and their version of the F-22 is ass, but whatever. Anyways, because again, there's a big difference. The map is not the territory, and just because you have the blueprint doesn't mean you can fucking build it. But there we go. Some of this stuff is really cheap, though, and I will say the irony is that one of the funniest parts about this. Chat room, check this out. And this is going to be a regular issue with me, Fancy Bear, which should be a character that I do once my shit gets working again. Or I should have a teddy bear on a stick that's Fancy Bear that walks people through cyber threats. If you haven't updated your router in the last 12 years, please do. I think that's just clear. Get a new router, and preferably go to Best Buy and go, I want a secure router, and they will give you any of the new ones are fine. Just fucking do it. Not just because China might attack you, or if you work with anything of any importance, they might use it to get into your email and therefore try to fake your email, spoof your email, and talk to somebody else and get their credentials. I forgot my password. What do you use? Can I use yours to get in? And then they give it because they're stupid, and then you've destroyed. They shut down a hospital right in the middle of someone's heart surgery, and it's all your fault. So get a new router if you haven't in the last little bit. Most of the people who are watching the show have either updated their shit in the last couple of years, since probably 2020, or their grandkids have helped them do it. So it's good. Meanwhile, One of my favorite things about all this, and this, I don't know why this doesn't occur to people more often, but it just, every time I hear these stories about us busting one of these groups that's using software to break into other things, and why it's hilarious to me is because China has a thing where they steal other people's shit and recreate it. They do it all the time. And it's got its roots in sort of how the CCP works and how Marxism works and how the businesses over there work. The idea is that if you get something and you don't try to improve on it, if you copy it directly and it fails, it's not your fault. I copied this. It says the answer checked A, I checked A. If you write A, however, there's this little piece of information and it works, nobody's going to notice. They'll just use it and keep moving on. But if it doesn't work, they'll go, you fucker, you should have just checked A, right? And this, when it comes to a schematic or it comes to how a piece of electronic hardware works or a particular piece of software, if you fuck around too much, you're going to find out. And they're not really nice about it, right? There is no sort of business like, hey, man, you tried. It's a major fuck up, but hey, you're showing initiative. None of that, okay? Especially when you're talking about these technologically aligned groups, okay? So just to be abundantly clear, we think of hackers as just kind of like crazy-haired fucking Penelope from Criminal Minds or, Polly Perret on NCIS or something like that. Just people who, they're just wild and they pierce everything, but they just got a thing for taking things apart and put them back together. And you need somebody who's into that shit to, so everybody can stand around and be an old man around them and go in English in a script, right? Hi, Mark, what's happening? And if you don't believe me, everybody can talk to Rob Glenn after today's episode, and you'll understand where I'm coming from. So, yes, Angelina Jolie. Oh, yeah, that'd be nice. I don't know how tech savvy she is. I bet I could fix her router. Anyways, literally, what were you thinking? Shame on you. So, most of the time they copy the software. Most of the time, like Chinese companies copy US software and then just tweak or just put a veneer over it and send it back. Kind of like the Huawei chip that was actually a Taiwanese chip that they just put a sticker on, essentially. They stamped it to say this is a Huawei Chinese chip, and it was really whatever. All right. So when you do that, the people you stole it from get very upset. Yes? Yes. But he did say Jehovah. Yeah. They get very mad. You'll notice, like companies that have been, they go to the U.S. government and they complain and they file charges, and a lot of times they can't do shit about it, and it's very aggravating, but they get very mad. And these are the people who thought the shit up in the first place. Well, when the Chinese try to put a piece of malware in something now, and again, this is why the updated routers became a thing, because in old tech, it was pretty easy to do. You could literally program the chip in there, and then the chip has this thing in it, right? I've reached a 65 stream. Look at that. Aliosh. All right. I'm impressed. So, yes, insert a joke about a firewall. Like to hose down her firewall. Does that work? Is that a good one? Anyways, so in this particular case, the Chinese are hacking into and inserting malware into areas of the thank you, Kat, into the software that they stole in the first place. So the people they stole it from are like, all right, we know what this. We made a patch for this before these motherfuckers stole it, and in our version of it, we patched it, but they haven't. I don't know. Hose down her firewall was pretty good, I gotta say. As nerd flirting lines go, yes, that is aces. I'm going to give myself an internal high five for that. It's a little bit like a Kegel exercise, but TMI. Anyways, so we obviously have a pushback when that happens. The problem is when it's fucking hardware. That's the problem. And so if you don't update your hardware, you work for a utility company, and people lose power, it's your ass. It's you're responsible for that. So they're trying to get everybody. Part of this gathering today that they were showing is these folks trying to like update your fucking router. Okay, that's the big message. Dear small businesses that contract to large utilities and all that, update your goddamn router. Second, if anybody ever asks you for your sign-in credentials online, the answer is no. 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 The answer is no. Okay? No. You can say, come over to my house, bring your laptop, I'll sign in for you. I'm not giving you that shit. Fix your shit. No. Good Lord. I'm not going to fall prey to things that I should have learned from watching shitty 90s hacker movies where the phrase, we're in, was overused. Oh my God. I honestly, if we could do anything to improve a lot of 90s movies about the internet, it's that anyone who says we're in while hacking should be hit in the face with a keyboard. CSL says, Houseparks, up to date and set to auto update too. Knew I had that covered, but you made me check. It's good. It's important. If you're really tricky, don't ask me how I know this. You can take an old computer and make a server out of it and set a box at your ISP that looks like your whole setup. You just make up a bunch of accounts and shit like that. And you can even, these days, you can use AI to send emails back and forth from fake email addresses that you set up inside the server. And it just creates this loop that if anybody hacks in, you have like, your thing could go out this road to like, your regular home internet is called boring shit, but this thing is called like business only, no family work, you guys. And it's got shit in there. And then they go in there, and then what it does is it just reverse seizes all their stuff. Which is fun, if you have the time to do that. Oh, God, I remember when I had time for hobbies. That was a good time. That was a good time. Also, yeah, you create a virtual machine. Same thing, Spicy Dragon. That's right. You create a virtual server at your address, and they don't know if they're in there. There's tons of videos online of guys who do that all the time. They like scammers and stuff like that. And you're like, well, I don't know. I could give you my bank's login stuff, and they give me a special URL that allows me to get into my bank. And you go, this is the URL. Is that what you need? And they're like, yeah, that'll work perfectly. And then they type in the credentials, and it starts siphoning all the shit out of their computer. Oh, it's a good time. So, I mean, this is a... Yeah, how do you set a trap with Stuxnet on your network connection? That is a whole other... Good Lord, that's an 8-hour live stream. Okay, Al Sparks, you have to... now you're going to have to start classes to teach us all this stuff. You don't need to know this stuff. Most people don't. Just update your fucking router. Listen to this man. Update your goddamn router. That's all I'm saying. Is give routers a chance. All right.
First documented PRC activity against U.S. critical infrastructure, referred to publicly as Volt Typhoon.
This is the thing they busted today. Also, let me see if there's a... Yeah, hold on. This is their opening statements. And then here's... Like, this is the part I was talking about.
And as they say, game respects game.
Hold on. This is
significant. And again, it all...
He gives... At the end of Chris Wray, I want you to watch this. I want you to absorb this. I want you to recognize... You better recognize that... bipartisan shit is happening right now before your eyes. Watch this little exchange. Do you realize in the modern political atmosphere, as we're sold it by the general news that we receive into our eye holes and ear holes, that what you're about to see is fucking impossible.
Back with the starting point, which is the Chinese government itself and their role and their ability to control these different aspects of it.
Thank you. My time has expired. I'm excited to recognize the ranking member because his questioning game and prop game improves with every hearing. So, and as they say, game respects game.
That's Mike Gallagher talking to Krishnamurti. And he's not kidding. He's not being snide. He's not pulling a fucking MTG. This might shock everybody, but in a cybersecurity meeting dealing with this particular threat. Not only do these assholes get along, but no one at any point, insofar as I know, and it's ongoing and live and anything's possible, no one holds up a picture of Hunter Biden's junk. Not at any point. Isn't that incredible? I didn't even know it was possible that you could, you should see the budgetary hearings, where fucking Boebert is drawing like flip books of Hunter Biden getting an erection going, I would like to send it into the record, honk, honk. Anyways.
Ranking member is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I want to discuss the impact of cyber attacks, real-world cyber attacks that are happening today in Ukraine at the behest of Russia. Recently, the Russian
He brings this up, and it's great. I don't know. We'll talk about this a little bit with Phil when he comes in. But Russia attacked the internet over there. It's interesting to me because they talk a lot about CEO partnerships with the government in terms of this to try and make sure their shit is up to date, so the government doesn't have to roll in and fix these problems when they happen, because private companies sign up and they're contracted to do all these things, and then if they don't keep up their cybersecurity, infrastructure gets hit, and that would be a concern, you'd think. He brings up Ukraine particularly about this, and they talk about how CEOs are good partners in this. And it's interesting that, if you'll recall, there was another time when Ukrainians lost internet, and that's when Elon Musk turned it the fuck off on purpose while they were being attacked. I'm sure it was an oversight, and I'm sure it had nothing to do with the fact that he gets his aluminum for the Teslas he builds in China, which is going to be his primary market, which is when Donald Trump says they're all going to be built in China, what he means is Elon Musk is trying to shore up 20% of the Chinese electric car market, and with his partnership with the Chinese government and his footsie and Dixie with the... That was accidental, but now Dixie forever will be the penis version of footsie, and none of us can escape that. I accidentally did that this morning. Check the date. It's the 31st. Yep, so January 31st. Hal Sparks ruined, even if the song Dixie was already ruined for you. It's worse now. Sorry. Anyways, with Russia, because he needs his aluminum to build them there and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Just saying, the Dixie Chicks. That is a whole different thing, and we'll have no transphobic jokes in here. Okay, so he goes through and he asks, watch how this. Well, here, Christian Murdy, watch this. Watch him ask a question and get an answer, and it's like fucking normal.
cut off internet access for tens of millions of Ukrainians in one cyber attack alone. Mm-hmm. And they then cut off power for hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians in a separate cyber attack.
Yes, they did.
And so I have a question for General Nakasone. We actually depict this here. It could look something like this.
I wish the power had just gone out. It looked something like this. Just like, that's basically what it'd be like. A bunch of flashlights come out. That would suck, wouldn't it?
In a conflict situation, the CCP could aim to attack American infrastructure.
Oh, look, it did. Look at that. That's amazing. That's what it looks like. That's the cyber attack looks like. That was totally accidental.
The same way that...
Just the camera went out for just one split second. The Chinese like, oh, we can do that. Click. See, we have that button on our desk.
The Russians are attacking Ukraine, right?
That's correct.
Let me turn to...
That was it. That's the whole thing. The Chinese could attack the United States like the Russians are attacking Ukraine, right? That's correct. Excellent.
To a potential real cyber attack by the CCP. General Nakasone, so far we've discovered CCP malware in certain critical infrastructure, but they haven't been activated yet. In the event that this malware were activated, you'd be able to attribute it back to the CCP just like you did with Volt Typhoon, right?
We are very good at attributing. That's correct.
Now, General Nakasone,
well, and also, for the record, yes, we are. We absolutely are. Because code is one of those things that's just so fucking full of, specific almost like it's like genetic code. You can see where it started and where it came from, where modifications happen. And because of language and how people in different countries will like buy stuff and then patch it themselves, they use a slightly different coding scheme or languaging and stuff, or references and stuff in the chips that they're using, because they like, okay, I want this chip to act in a certain way. So hold on. That, you know, because I'm working with this piece of hardware from my country that we're putting into this, or because we're referencing this, you can tell it came from a particular part of the world, right? So, and it's not 100%, but they can tell, especially on timing, shit like that.
2018, you were at the Aspen Security Forum, and here's a picture of you 5 years ago. And you said this, which really caught my eye. It said,
by the way, totally without stars. 5 years, that dude's gotten 4 stars. Way to fucking work, dude.
if a nation state decided to attack our
Tommy Tuberville couldn't keep the stars off this fucking guy's shoulders. He's been working his ass off.
critical infrastructure, that's above.
He's probably, you know what's funny is that because it's cybersecurity, probably called somebody in his office probably called Tuberville's office and went, look, dude, you can fuck around. Nobody in the other division's going to send army to your house or whatever, but I can see your email. And they're like, just get him right through. He's good. He's good. He's good.
The threshold
I'm kidding.
of.
No, I'm not really. Actually, I don't even think he had to make that phone call. I think somebody in Tuberville's office was like, sir, that is the cyber command. They can see, they have the right to, especially if anything happens around the Capitol, like somebody farts into one of the vents, they can consider that an act of war and they can just scan all our emails. I'm just saying.
War. Isn't that what you said?
So I do recall appearing there and from that quote, yes, and I probably would have said it differently today, Ranking Member.
And then the next part of that quotation also caught my eye. You continued by saying, and we would certainly respond. And in your written statement, you talk about imposing costs on potential adversaries. So I just want you to say very clearly here, Cybercom indeed has the capability to respond decisively.
It does, and this is a really important point.
There's also a distinction. Can I just make a really important observation about this? And I think they talk about it a little bit later, is that the Chinese and the Russians, this is a very distinct difference. The Chinese and the Russians specifically put their malware and their attack points in civilian infrastructure. They attack electrical grids, civilian internet service, gas lines for civilian heat, and energy for civilian homes and private businesses. This is their main focus. And the reason is because to them, the best offense moment is to put whatever their opponent, they want their society to effectively collapse into chaos. So the way you do that is you make everybody attack stuff. You trigger looting and all kinds of shit like that. And one of the ways they do it is through TikTok-like videos and that kind of stuff that keep people, at odds politically and that kind of stuff. It's there's a system to it. The Russians do it all the time as well. It's getting a little harder to do as people get more savvy, but they, for a while they had it was the Wild West, and they had a great window to do it because you had people like, Donald Trump, who's effectively the first troll president, right? Yeah. Because Russia and Chinese are A-. Yeah, that's true. Partly because they're cribbing off the homework of the kid next to him, who's an American, who's A. So, and also Finnish and Norwegian hacker groups that work for them that have been supplying NATO with information, doing stuff for NATO even before those countries were in NATO is a big part of this. Because NATO's Cyber Command is probably the most important part of it heretofore, especially before the attack on Ukraine. It was absolutely crucial and the biggest thing everybody was building. That said, the difference being is that our response when we do shit is we shut down the bridge of their ships, for example. Yeah? their military ships specifically. When U.S. Cyber Command attacks back, you will hear occasionally stories of, and the best one is, of course, the Iranian nuclear facilities. So Iran had been engaged in a bunch of shit, but they were trying to how I can confirm when you use or access certain government websites, they can scan all devices, private, corporate, or government. Yeah, absolutely, because they're like making sure you are who you say you are, and there's a lot of ways to pretend on the internet, and they're not taking any chances because it's critical infrastructure, and you're talking to the government. So anyways, in this particular instance, when we attacked, the U.S. Under Obama initiated a cyber attack on an Iranian nuclear site that was weaponizing uranium and was building the missile infrastructure to be able to build a missile. It was early on when everybody was like, they're 6 months away or they're 3 months away. And everybody's like, they're 35 days away. Like fucking, because everybody thinks you can AI and 3D print your way into a fucking nuke, which is dumb. But anyways, we hacked into their system. The U.S. Cyber Command with one of our hacker groups. And they overspun all the centrifuges in the place, right? Until they broke. They essentially made everything. If anybody ever, one of my favorite movies is Real Genius, and there's a crucial plot point before the cyanide laser invention, which is obviously one of my favorite turning points in any movie. But where one of the heel in the movie wipes oil on the optics of one of the lasers, and because it can't in the optic, it can't penetrate the oil. It starts to overheat and it blows the prototype apart, and they have to start from scratch right when they're all behind and they're fucked and blah, blah. It's great. But that one little thing, all you got to do is make that smudge and it destroys it, right? When you're trying to build something, it's very, very difficult. A lot of moving parts, a lot of work. But if you're just trying to make something fall apart, it's not that difficult. And when it comes to a centrifuge, all you got to do is set it out of balance, and then overspin it, and it will wreck itself. Fucking Kent is right.
And Kent,
Yes?
stop playing with yourself.
It is God. Written by the great Pat Proft, who wrote all the funny jokes in Airplane, I would like to say. But anyways, they programmed it to overspin the centrifuges, setting them all cattywampus, and then they just basically flew apart. They broke to pieces, and then they fried all the computer boards. They fried all the computers in the place, all the motherboards. They had basically overheated them, shut the fans down on the computers, and then ran a bunch of cycles so that the heat just built up, and basically it just bricks your fucking computer. And these are earlier versions anyways. We did all that shit, and then apparently the story is that before blowing up all the computers in the place by overheating them like this, we played Thunderstruck by AC/DC on all the speakers in the place. Which I gotta say, I mean, come on. That's fucking great. You've been thunderstruck! Yeah. That's a true story. So, needless to say, these fuckers know what they're doing. I'm just saying.
Kent,
What?
this is Jesus, Kent.
All right, who is this? Whoops. Stop screwing around, Kent. You've built a weapon.
What do you think?
A secret conjugate phase tracking system is for. A big mirror makes a big beam. So, I gotta say, the irony that the crossbow project is totally within reach these days and not at all difficult. But in the 80s, it was a big deal. So, hi. Hey, Cynthia, how are you? So, the new guy is not? Okay, come on. Bon Scott was great. He died. Brian Johnson is not to blame, and the Black and Black album is a fucking rock classic. Simmer the fuck down. They didn't fire the guy. He died. The ban deserves to go on. Stop being a jerk. And also leave Lars Ulrich alone. He's weird, but he's a fucking qualified drummer. He's crucial to the Metallica sound. People need to simmer. Keep your powder dry. Jesus Christ, it's music. Simmer. All right. Anyways, so there was a, let's see. Well, okay. This dude. Okay, so this is the only part where, okay. Let me show you why it matters who you elect when it comes to these things. So this is Walt from for the Who's at Home. I'm kidding. This is a Republican. Now let me play for you what happens when dumb people are on smart people committees. Let's just, I'll show you.
These like hospitals and water systems.
Hold on. Let me back it up so you can hear.
Mr. Whitman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank our witnesses for joining us today. Thanks again for your service. General Nakasone, thanks so much for your 37 years of service to our nation. I'd like to begin with you. There are some that would assert that other nations conduct cyber operations. Some of those things could have consequences on entities like hospitals and water systems and power grids and others.
Yes, that's what they have been saying the whole, welcome, thanks for showing up.
Civilian targets. What makes the PRC activities like embedding latent malware into systems, what makes it unique in relation to other responsible cyber actors?
Yes, unlike regular cyber hackers and people who disrupt systems, what's the difference between the hardware versus the software version of this attack? I mean, it's, look, he's getting stuff into the record, whether it's because he doesn't understand or not, that's fine. Yeah.
Responsible cyber actors of democracies like our own do not target the civilian infrastructure. There's no
Very crucial. And it's very important that he brings this up, and then you listen to what the Republican says.
reason for them to be in our water. There's no reason for them to be in our power. This is a decision by an actor to actually focus on civilian targets. That's not what we do.
Right.
Let me ask this too. The ranking member talked about attribution, determining exactly who was behind the cyber attacks and then making sure that there are repercussions for those actions. I would argue too, it's not just about us playing defense, because we will never get out in front of the insidiousness that happens with cyber attacks and those folks that dream up ways to attack our system.
Yes, we will. Yes, we can. As a matter of fact, they bring up, you fucking tool, there's a myriad of reasons and why we should think in terms of getting ahead, and why we absolutely can. Whenever you have a new piece of gear, it should go through its paces in terms of being how susceptible to hacking it is. Especially if it has to do with voting machines or any kind of government contracting, it should be at a much higher standard. And then everybody in the company should be trained on, what malware can look like and how somebody can try to ask you and what phishing is all about and stuff. And if you get ahead of it, you still fucking, yes, can someone get through? It's possible. But you get way ahead of 90% of these dumb motherfuckers, because half the time when you find out, I would like to say, that somebody has broken into one of our systems, it's because somebody was being a fucking idiot. It's not because they were a genius. It's because they're like, hey, it's me, Sam. And they just fake Sam's email with an overlap. Nobody bothers to fucking check. And like, hey, it's Sam, what's going on? How's your wife, kids? Whatever. And you're like, I'm not married. I don't have kids. But what's going on, Sam? How you been? It's been a while. I've never been married and I don't have any children. Also, Clem is actually short for Clementine. I'm a woman. Right? That person is like, oh yeah, you want my login ID? Sure. Here, you know what? Let me just log you in remotely. You can just use my computer. Like, that's just fucking ridiculous. That's how it happens. It's not because they're like, oh my God, they found a secret pathway through and they were like, we're in, It's because some dumbass in the fucking, I don't know, in sales, usually, gives somebody their login password, or is dumb in their login password, or uses the same password for everything, and then doesn't, while they run better security on in their passwords as far as work goes, it's the same as their private one, and they don't do thing to back that up. I gotta say, my passwords are so different on everything that I often forget which one I'm using for which. There are so many of them, but I don't use the same one across everything because I'm not stupid. Yeah. Do you know how long it would take? I can't use password 1234. No, but you do realize that if you just use password 4321, it would keep those fuckers busy for a very long time. Yeah. And if the one is an exclamation point, you're fucking fine. So, yeah. And for those wondering, you know that number tattoo, chat room, that number tattoo on Dr. Frankenfurter it's at 4711, 4711. That's on his abdomen or whatever. Like, if you have a Rocky Horror Picture on your site, everybody knows that's your PIN number. Change it. You're better off, if you're going to reference something from pop culture as a password, pick something you hate, not something you like. Just for the record. All right, back to where we were. And then Phil will be joining us in just a couple minutes. Here you go.
But one thing that we can do very effectively is have.
By the way, this is so fucking Republican. And by the way, the guy behind him is like, he looks like he's on a bus to nowhere. You know Greg Kelly?
A very robust offensive capability as a deterrent so that folks understand like.
All right, offense is not a deterrent. Defense is a deterrent. Robust defensive capabilities is a deterrent. If we hit them with that, they will hit us so much worse. That's a defensive deterrent because they don't dare fuck with us because of what it unleashes. This guy, all right, fuck, dude. You don't even know which you just flip the coin and you don't know the difference between heads and tails.
China, that if there is a cyber attack on this nation that goes after our critical infrastructure,
which would be the offensive part of the exchange,
that what will be coming back their way will be orders of magnitude greater.
Which would be the defensive part. Now, orders of magnitude greater. Now, if China attacks our critical infrastructure and they attack the energy grid and the internet and the fucking hospitals and the gas lines and stuff that attacks civilians, okay, there is no version of orders of magnitude worse when it comes to the military. The military expects a certain level of attack, yeah? And we're not going to go, oh, you shut down 20 of our hospitals, we're going to shut down 65 of your hospitals. Like, this is why I can't watch the movie Limitless. Please, God, save me from dumb people making smart people movies. This is, I would like to present to you the DC version, and Philip is waiting in the wings. We'll bring him in just 1 second. I present to you, if I may, the Washington equivalent of a development executive when you're pitching a sci-fi film to them and they say to you, at what point do the robots rise up and attack everyone? And you're like, the whole premise of this is that people are cyborgs. You're not separate from robots and stuff. And it's really more about our integration with technology and whether that's the scary thing or something, as opposed to, all right, fucking robot uprising. God damn it, I hate this. Yes, I'll write a scene where a Roomba runs over a child's foot. Are you happy now, you fucking tool? God damn, these people are dumb. Oh, thank God. All right, I'm sorry about the crappy technological bump in this, but if I may, what is the secondary? My name's way up in the corner over there. Look at that. Boink. And then I'll grab Phil and I'll bring him in here in just 1 second, and then I'll turn on his audio so you can hear him. So we don't have to. And whoops, God damn it, I did it again. Click, and then this, and then click that. You know, at some point AI is going to do this for me. It's going to happen. I insist. All right, he's looking good. All right, hold on. Yes, I see that you're making noise. I have the thing. I got to bring it. There you are. And then we turn on the audio, and there he is, ladies and gentlemen. Philip
Hello,
Bittner.
Professor. Would you like to play a game?
Would you like to play a game? Interesting game. The only way to win is not to play.
Is not to play.
Oh my God, we've all learned such a valuable lesson today. It's so true about nuclear war. Like, I was watching that and I was like, wow, it's so interesting. Out of the mouths of babes, which of course are extratemporal computer programs that don't age. So it's weird that it's actually older than him technically because it's lived 1,000 lifetimes with every click. But whatever. You're talking to a dude whose favorite movie is Blade Runner and favorite anime is Ghost in the Shell. And yeah, like the original, by the way,
the Roy
the original noir cut.
Roy Batty's final soliloquy is just,
oh my God, I've
brings a
seen
tear to my
things
eye.
people wouldn't believe.
Wouldn't believe. Attack ships off the shoulder
on fire
of
off the shoulder of Orion.
Shoulder of Orion.
I've watched sea beams.
Oh, that's so glistening.
Glitter in the dark near the Tannhauser Gates.
Tannhauser Gates.
All these moments will be lost in time.
In time.
Like tears.
Like tears.
In rain. And the idea that, and this is so fucking AI.
That he wrote that the day before he delivered it.
Yeah, he just blitzed.
Incredible.
He just said it. And one of the greatest things about it is Tears in the Rain is one of the most hack 80s sounding lyric lines in the world. But if you know anything about AI and computers and their sort of autofill large language models that they're based on, that's what it would do. Yeah. It wouldn't invent a whole new analogy because it knows it's communicating to a human being. It would use the one that would automatically trigger the awareness in the human it was talking to. It would know that it could make up some fucking rando.
Which is why the Turing test is so flawed. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because we're easy.
You know, I used to drive my friends in high school nuts because I was that nerd that would go to a party and put in the Blade Runner Vangelis
soundtrack. Oh yeah,
which is a beautiful soundtrack.
It's so
but
good.
Not when you're trying to get laid. You know, when you're 17.
Yeah. I mean, if you're doing mushrooms, in a cabin in the woods with like a friend taking notes.
Yeah.
You know, while you
when you're at a kegger. You're at a kegger.
No, it's not kegger music.
No, it's not. But I was
this
that
is
kid.
The day we learned.
The guy was like, "This is such a cool soundtrack." It's like
this is the day we learned where Philip got his nickname Phil Buzzkill Ittner.
That's right. It's like read the room, Phil. Read the room.
Yeah, can you put on some Aerosmith? Jesus Christ, man.
And you're right. And Ghost in the Shell is amazing as well, and delves into all these questions.
It does.
The very name of the thing, Ghost in the Shell.
Right. At what point do you go from being human to losing your humanity because too much of you has been replaced? It's also, I brought up a movie yesterday.
Darth Vader, baby.
Yeah. I brought up a movie yesterday in the live stream because everybody has such limited references, especially when they're talking about dystopian possible futures from sci-fi. It's all fucking Terminator, and they don't know anything fucking else. And I'm like, have you ever seen Nemesis?
First of all, do we have the capability to do that?
Yes, we do. We can watch it. I think it's on Amazon. But the sorry, I was watching that the live stream of that before you came
subcommittee?
on. Yeah. So Nemesis is it's a low budget sci-fi film or whatever, but it's where Johnny Mnemonic got some of its shit too, about the idea that in the future there'll be brain couriers who carry gigabytes of data, or in the modern parlance it would be terabytes of data in their actual brain, and so they get outfitted with this thing so that they can slip through because you can't bring digital stuff across certain borders because they'll find it, but if you pump it into somebody's head, they can hide it there, and that's the idea, that you can steal things, and corporate espionage would happen, or military espionage would happen that way. It's pretty great, but not really well carried out. And it's always like the system. There's the overlord who wants
that Johnny Mnemonic movie was such a disappointment, especially for those of us who were William Gibson. I'm a huge William Gibson fan. I think William Gibson is just a genius.
I mean, he's the guy who created the phrase cyberpunk. Cyberpunk. That in and of itself. Yeah.
That was Bruce Sterling. Which islands in the net, islands in the stream, late '80s, early '90s cyberpunk literature.
Oh, I thought that was a light '80s,
German
yacht rock song.
Urine porn.
Islands in the stream. No, sorry.
In the
we are islands
in the stream.
Bruce
Sterling. Islands in the net. I recommend anybody who, if you can get your hands on Bruce Sterling's, but I mean, all of this stuff is now coming to be. It's coming.
Yeah, a lot of it's very prescient. A lot of it isn't because they overshot some of it because you're like taking the gear in front of you and not recognizing exponential change, which you couldn't possibly. Nemesis is on Prime. Thank you very much. But in Nemesis, there's a point where this guy is stopping like cyber terrorists and that kind of stuff, and he's had parts of him replaced, and then in the opening mission, he basically gets blown to pieces and they kind of reassemble him. And he's like, his big fear is, and the narration tells it about him, like he's afraid that one day he'll wake up and the part of him that they'll have cut out the part of him that's actually human. They'll cut my soul out by accident, and that's the essence of Ghost in the Shell as well. That's the story. It's like how much of this is an addendum where we lose our humanity, right? Now, I think the reality is that humanity for people is unshakable, and none of the change that you can't eliminate humanity through technology at all. But what you can do it chemically. And so a lot of people, that's where I would argue that Ritalin and Adderall used off market will make you racist, and I've talked about that before because it's hyper focused when you don't need it, but. Anyways, it's a fascinating thing, and we were talking about Huggy Bear in Apartment 21, the Russians attacking us during 2016, and then of course attacking Ukraine recently, shutting down the internet, and then Elon Musk being this fucking soft idiot for them.
Well, no, and also, I mean, this is a really important topic to discuss because. One of the things that Russia likes to do, and again, I'm going to defer to you on the Chinese, but what Russians do, and this is their modus operandi, is that they field test stuff in their near abroad. So we saw them do this in Estonia to get into their energy grid. We saw them do this here in Ukraine in 2015. There's a really good. If folks want to read a good write-up of this, there's a Wired article from the time that's still available online. 2015. There's a power plant, nuclear power plant, on the outskirts of Kiev, and these guys are sitting there. These guys are the story goes. These guys are sitting around and monitoring things and all the rest of it. And suddenly they see the cursor on their computers
start
moving. Yeah. Without their involvement. And they're like, and they freak out and they try to shut everything down, but it's too late. And they knock out the power for a few hours in Kiev as a proof of concept, clearly. As a proof of concept. Now, subsequently, I've spoken to, and I want to be careful with this because the guy who told me this is a buddy of mine, and he's in the U.S. military, and he had really high clearance at one point. So I don't want to give away anything that'll give away his identity because he kind of told me this in confidentiality. But we know they're in the grid. They're already inside.
Yeah. They talk about it in this. They talked about that this morning in the subcommittee hearing.
Yeah, they were talking about the Chinese. I overheard them talking about the Chinese having dormant
malware,
attack bots, and malware, and all the rest of it. my buddy who told me this over a good Mexican meal one time, it's not just malware.
So he lives in San Francisco, is what you're saying.
Ah!
No, sorry. That would just be a Cupertino, Silicon Valley reference. And also, because of that Mexican place, you recommended that Tommy's, was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Tommy's, yeah, great. Well, great tequila bar is really what it is. But it's also
I see. Well, I don't know.
Anyhow, so we had this conversation, and he told me basically we know that they're not only malware, but they've got guys inside. They've got active, not bots, not app, not synthetic, coding, but actually physically can physically. I mean, when it comes to getting into your systems, that they're capable of getting in, and it's a constant battle. It's a constant battle, and the Russians are, credit where credit's due. They're a bit ham-fisted with it. They're not very subtle, but they still can do. They're still very, very capable. I mean, look what they did in 2016. I've come to the point where I'm no longer going to be shy about my concerns about 2016, because the way the Mueller report was wheeled out was so damning and so dismissive, and we forget that the Mueller report was not discredited. The Mueller report was obstructed.
Well, Jesus Christ, Paul Manafort. Talk about a history of awful in the fucking. The dude was fucking like tried and convicted based on stuff that the Mueller team found out, and that guy. Like, never mind Yanukovych being a sock puppet for fucking Vladimir Putin. Never mind them trying to put down the Euromaidan with fucking snipers and agents provocateur in the crowd, and it was Manafort's idea, and he told his fucking daughters this, and they don't talk to him anymore because he paid dudes on Craigslist to come over and gang fuck his wife, who was injured in mentally deficient in a fucking car accident, and he got off on watching her be like savaged by people. So he would just call this dude's no wonder he was like, Donald Trump's my man, and he was trying to make himself right with debts he had in fucking Russia. In this process, he's the campaign manager for Donald Trump. He's like, I'll get this guy elected.
Oppo research. Yep. We know for a fact he was giving Oppo research.
Yeah.
We know that they were inside the Russians had infiltrated the NRA, Maria Butina, for example.
Yep.
We know that they were in the breakfast, what is the annual church breakfast, or what is that event that's in DC?
The national prayer, the national prayer
breakfast.
Yep.
Yeah. They were inside that, which is, I mean, Democrats attend it, but it's a very Republican kind of thing. Look, the sooner we recognize we're in an information war, like an active information war. Yeah. And beyond just like information kind of hacking kind of stuff, hacking your mind, manipulating people's minds. And they're very good at it. The sooner we recognize that's actually happening, and it's not up to us. They have chosen to pursue that act. And then, of course, they're here in Ukraine. They're in the Baltics. They're all throughout Europe. We recently had a disturbing event in Poland, the GPS hacking, which I'm sure you're aware of, where they shut down GPS. And, our military is so dependent on GPS now. And rightfully so. It's a great tool. I mean, it was a military asset.
Drones.
Before it was in everybody's phone.
Yeah, drones are crucial in that regard. And if you shut down, their GPS, but keep your own, you get a tactical advantage that's, immeasurable. Yeah.
So there's a hybrid war going on. It's already started. I'm getting really sick and tired of this, what if the war expands? The war's already expanded. We're well beyond Ukraine now. there's and then you look at Russia teaming up with Iran and North Korea.
Well, and Iran triggering the stuff as a distraction, and like the October 7th, they
in
literally.
Gaza,
Can you imagine the cruelty of basically green lighting October 7th through your proxies just so you can pay off some dude whose oligarchs are sick of having their yachts seized? I mean, that's say what you will about whatever Hamas's religious background is, the fact that they want every Jew on the planet wiped off the planet, why they line themselves with the Houthis who openly give the Nazi salute in the street in formation. And put all that aside for just 1 second and understand that even they are willing or unwilling participants. Either they're aware of what Russia wants and they're just happy to take advantage of the fact that they'll get, backfill, pay, and gear from that shit, or if they're just dumb and don't recognize they're being puppeted and drawn out into the open where they're ultimately going to get killed. It doesn't matter because they've been brought up to be martyrs, perhaps. But ultimately, Russia is just doing this because they're sick of having their yachts seized. And Hamas on October 7th was working for Russian oligarchs, ultimately. Fucking hell.
And in addition to that, and they've been largely successful about this, is also to draw attention away from this place. And they've done a great job.
Right.
I mean, the International Press Corps is not here. It's moved. I've told you this already, I think a couple of times. I went up to the hotel, the Intercontinental Hotel, just outside of St. Michael's Square here in Kiev. Was the place where the International Press Corps would base themselves, and it's empty. It's empty.
Right.
So they have succeeded. They have drawn the press corps away.
Right.
And that was their one of their major intentions. It's disgusting.
It's interesting that they.
By the way, I was just earlier today. I was on with Stephanie.
Yes. Great. Awesome.
It was a wonderful, wonderful conversation. We talked a little bit about this as well.
Fantastic.
But we have not had a chance, because the only time we had that, you had a commitment last Wednesday, so I wasn't on last Wednesday, and then the next time we spoke was on Saturday, and then earlier today I was on with Stephanie, all of which I had to watch my P's and Q's. So allow me.
It's nice to be able to swear. Fuck those people. Fuck the Russians. Fuck Vladimir Putin.
Fuck the Russians. Fuck Vladimir Putin. Fuck the GOP.
Yes.
Fuck the International Press Corps.
JD Vance and Marjorie Taylor Greene. What's the fucking difference?
Dude, they don't even. The fact that these pieces of shit. I mean, I thought it was bad enough. I was angry enough that they were holding Ukrainian aid hostage for the border. But then to find out that they have no intention of dealing with the border because they want to run on it, which means that aid to Ukraine has been held up for no good fucking reason.
Right.
And there are people dying here every single day. The press corps has moved on. The GOP are playing their bullshit games. It is absolute. I am so fucking angry. I am so fucking angry. I've been speaking. So we got hit really bad last Tuesday. We've discussed this. And part of the problem was our air defense wasn't operating properly because we have a shortage of munitions. Right. We don't have a lot of these Patriot missile systems to defend our cities. And the Kiev government is being forced to make a decision, which is fucking reprehensible, because of the GOP, to either protect their citizens or protect their soldiers.
Right.
What the absolute fuck? And by the way, we could talk about the Zaluzhny rumors and all the rest of it a little bit later. There's this issue that maybe he's going to be replaced as head of the army. But getting away, we talk about that
when it happens, it happens. I like those kind of rumors. It's even
something's going on. Something is definitely going on. There's a lot of discussion that they're floating this because they do want to know what the public reaction would be if he was to be dismissed. But but before we talk about that fully, I mean, it is so disgusting that these guys would do this, and Ukrainians are dying every single fucking day because they're playing these stupid fucking games. Now, maybe they're actually fellow travelers with Putin and they legitimately want Russia to win here. In that case, they're fucking traitors and they're un-American, and to hell with you. You know, it's the.
Mm. Yeah,
I talked to
Yeah.
Ukrainians since the attack.
Great.
I just want to finish
Yeah.
this quick thought. I talked to Ukrainians every day since those attacks, and because it was a very clear indication that they are not able to defend themselves as well as they used to, because we stopped sending shit here because of all this BS the GOP is playing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how wonderful the Ukrainian people are. This is how amazing the Ukrainian people are. I said, what do you want me to tell the Americans when I talk to, to audiences that I talk to in the West?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I said? Do you want me to tell you that you're angry or that you're, and they were like, no, we want you to tell America, thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for helping us. We are so grateful for everything that you do. And when you do pay attention to us, and we know that the people of America, because they get NGOs and they get support from the actual people of America.
Well, they've also been puppeted before. They've had puppet politicians before.
And they know
dealt
what's
with it forever.
on.
Right.
That's right. And they know Russia's games as well. And they know that we're being attacked by Russia with this information warfare. But this is how wonderful these people are. That they're like, no, we're a little bit perplexed. We're a little frustrated.
Sure.
We're anxious. We're anxious because like
You're in
what
war,
you guys decide.
Right.
Yeah, what you guys decide is going to decide for better or worse the course of the war. Now we're never going to stop fighting.
Yeah.
But you guys, if you stop supporting us, it just means that we're gonna lose a lot more people before this thing is done. But we're never going to stop fighting. But the fact that they were so gracious and so kind and so sweet to me, and said, no, Phil, because I said I'm apologizing. I'm sitting there going, I'm so sorry that this is happening to you. And they're like, no, we get it. Don't worry. Look, you guys have been great. That's how wonderful these people are, and it makes me that much more fucking angry.
Right.
It's such a lovely, lovely country with such lovely people who are so understanding and thoughtful and considerate that they because they could easily be like, you motherfuckers promised us our territorial integrity. You promised us that with the Budapest Memorandum, and you're letting us down. They have every right to be angry, but they're such lovely people, and they're so gracious. And it just make they I had somebody today. I was having coffee with her before she was on the train back to Lviv, and I said to her, are you not angry at the betrayal? And she said, no, look, no, that's who we're asking for help. You can't be angry, and she said, you might have a different perspective. And I said, you're damn right I do, because you're being polite and you're being sweet and lovely and kind and thoughtful. I'm angry. I'm fucking so angry. Right. I'm on the warpath with these motherfuckers. I have called my representatives, and I urge everybody to do the same. This is absolutely from this day moving forward, every death that happens in this country, the GOP owns a percentage of it. Fuck them. And I hope they all lose their offices. I hope they all are voted out. It's just, anyhow, that's thank you for letting me vent. I got to swear a little bit. That was
not
fun.
at all. I completely, if I may, let me see.
So angry.
Angry. Of course.
So angry.
Let's get this over here. This is
so cruel. Yeah.
So this was
Yeah.
the where is it?
Is it Shirkin?
Yeah. This the Russian getting the middle finger at the UN. Just fucking straight up. It's so good.
Fuck you.
Fuck you. So yeah, I mean we all feel it. Them. We're all there. I get it.
Yeah.
So
the sooner we get back on, the sooner we get the the sooner GOP and this MAGA bullshit is put out to pasture, the better. And look, I'm still confident that Biden will do the right thing. And
well, he's again, they are under the table. There's a ton of stuff that's still going over there because it's already been arranged. It's already it's already been signed off on. Half of when Biden tries to sign off on new stuff, it's to prepare to send stuff in fucking June as far as what they plan out, as far as what our contribution is to how much gear they need and all that kind of stuff. The reality is though, is because the fucking meat waves that Russia is sending, they're running out of direct ammo a lot quicker. Simply, Jesus Christ, simply because the Russians are just sending waves and waves of dead bodies. They're just like, fuck these guys.
Which is probably cynically part of their plan.
Yes.
Right. And the Europeans are picking up the slack a little bit. They've gotten better. They have on this side of the Atlantic. One of the big obstructionists, Orban in Hungary, is under intense pressure right now, and I think he's gonna cave, because the European Union is right now drafting a bill that will remove Hungary's vote in the European Parliament. And there's also talk of now even more than that, also taking away spending, European project spending, which will destroy him. He won't, he'll be voted out, no problem. So, and he knows it, and I think he's starting to run scared. And the Slovakian prime minister also seeing that this is happening, and also having been a person who has been a little more pro-Putin, a little bit, a fly in the ointment. He's turned, he's done a 180 and been like, "Oh, I see the way the wind is blowing. All right, sure, yeah. So we'll send F-16s. How about that?" Yeah. So, but we in America, we need to. These guys, that's so sick.
Yeah,
they held the border. They held it hostage over a border that they didn't want the problem resolved.
Well, and again, I got news for you. I think after seeing a bunch of the shit that's been going back and forth on this, I think this is just a bunch of flailing and wailing before the text of the bill comes out to try and kill it in the crib, because they know it's actually something they would vote for, and it's not going to work, because once the wording comes out I think the text of the bill is coming out today. And when the number 5,000 is not the number of people let into the country, but the number of encounters that triggers different rules, which is a very low number for the southern border, which basically would allow that trigger to happen almost every day except the winter months and the height of summer, right? That's the only time it goes below 5,000 most of the time is when the weather doesn't permit. That's it, right? Mm-hmm. And so once they realize, that's the number of encounters that you have to have before it triggers these extra rules, which is like fucking hell. Like, that's what they've been asking for. And it makes sense. Like, if there's too many people, if it's not orderly, if there's a big rush, you can't arrange for these giant rushes. And by the way, this is a pushback against, like, Putin and China are arranging, with by the way, GOP sympathizers in South America, waves of people. They're doing it all over the fucking country. Look at what they did with, like, immigrants in the Polish border, immigrants in the Finnish border, that Russia tried. Remember that shit? Like, that's I mean, they're just using it because...
well, we've already seen them do this before. They did it in the run up to the Brexit vote. The head of NATO in Europe, General Philip Breedlove, came out and said, "We know that they are weaponizing migration, and if they did it in Europe, again,
they'll do it over here.
They like to do that.
They are doing it here.
Do the petri dish thing, and they are doing it here,
especially if it helps somebody like Trump get elected. That's the thing. That's why he's like, don't solve it." Yeah, that is a chess move. So the 5,000 encounters before it triggers the new rules is a chess move by the Biden administration, the U.S. government, to protect ourselves against weaponized migration, so that we can, through an orderly system. By the way, this is only encounters at the border. This is not about migrants who are coming into the country legally, who are signing up for asylum, who go through, and we're working with the Mexican government to set up satellite areas where they don't have to illegally cross the border. They can go to these places. They can be safe physically while they go through this process. We'll help fund them through Mexico. That's the other thing, is we'll help set up these situations so the cartels don't have these fucking camps where they control the food and keep people fucking hooked on drugs or whatever the fuck other control matrix they have, guns and shit like that they can go to a Mexican government site that is aided by Doctors Without Borders and other groups, where you can apply there. And if you're not going to make it, you at least know you either can stay in Mexico and try to get a job there, or we'll help send you back, and we're going to send foreign aid to your country so that they can stabilize as well. Argentina notwithstanding. So, like, this is a chess move to stop Russia, which is why Donald Trump wants it killed in the crib. That's why he wants it.
Hey.
Yeah.
I asked this of Stephanie, and I'll ask it of you. Do you know what one of the largest, if not the largest, it has been the largest for a long time. It may have changed. I haven't checked in a while. But you know what either the largest or one of the largest Russian embassies is, where it's located geographically?
Mexico? No.
Mexico fucking City.
Yep. Yeah.
Largest Russian embassy in the world is in Mexico City. Do you think that's a coincidence?
No. And also,
Come
and by the way,
if you don't think there are Russian agents, Russian agents right now exacerbating the crisis on the border,
of course they are.
You're naive as hell. You remember the old movie based on a true event, The Falcon and the Snowman? Why do you think they went to the Russian embassy, the Soviet then, but the embassy in Mexico? Because it's outside,
enormous.
It's not domestically within the United States, so they can fuck around with the United States just across the border.
Right.
It's just, if you don't think
that
all of
I
this
gotta
is
say
being orchestrated or at least contributed to by the GRU and the SVR, the intelligence agencies of Russia. These are
asymmetrical warfare tactics, and the Chinese. There's a fascinating part of it because China has recognized that Mexico is now our biggest trading partner. And one of the ways that some of the businesses in China that are state linked are trying to get around the import and export controls that the U.S. government has put on Chinese goods, especially electronics, and especially in dealing with like intellectual property theft and that kind of stuff. Not allowing people to do that in China is by setting up factories in Mexico. The problem what they weren't aware of is that in our, in the legislation that creates those protections, it doesn't have to be in the host country. It doesn't have to be a Chinese company in China. It can be a Chinese company in fucking Singapore and certainly one in Mexico. So the same rules fucking apply. And they were like, what the shit? And so they started. And the interesting thing is, on the one hand, they're coordinating with Russia and they're like strange bedfellows. On the other hand, they are competing for this. Because China needs the stability of the workers in Mexico that are cheaper than their workers, right? So they can shave a percentage point off what it would cost them to construct things and sell it to the United States, Canada, and European countries. The margin's very tiny, and China is fucked right now. We'll talk about that in a second. But they need the stability of Mexico to make that financially work for them. Russia wants the instability of Mexico. They work with the cartels and the fentanyl distribution to destabilize the United States. They don't build anything at all. They have no interest in satellite companies. They just have governmental and military outreach in these places. And why the fuck do you think this close to America, Jesus Christ, you think America doesn't make enough guns? You think America doesn't sell enough guns in the world, and yet all the cartels have Kalashnikovs? They all have AK-47s? Why the fuck do you think that is? It makes sense in Afghanistan because they're right there. But why all the way over in Mexico? All the way over in South America? Why it's not even why wouldn't they take U.S. guns, M4s and whatever, M16s, whatever the leftover stock they could buy. Why can't they get it? Well, first of all, we have rules on who we sell to. Secondly, why don't they buy the Chinese knockoff of the M4, besides the fact that it'll blow up in your hand, take your thumb off, and take your eye out? I'll tell you why. Because the Kalashnikov is cheaper. They never stop making them. They just start cranking them out like they're going to hand them to everybody in Eastern Europe to wipe everybody out eventually, 1-to-1, gun for gun. So there's so many of those fucking things floating around. You can send crates of them anywhere. That's why they're there.
And you got to know, aside from all that, you got to know they're also flooding the zone with money. What money they have, they get a lot more bang.
They don't have as much as they used to, which is the fucked up part. They're doing their own Iran-Contra in Mexico right now, because that's really what it is. Like we'll help you sell drugs, and we'll take a cut of that money in the same way that they're stealing gold in Darfur right now. Jesus Christ, the underlining sort of kleptocratic corporate structure of the Russian government in these countries, the destabilizing factor that they put in, and the sheer fucking violence that they are a part of.
Well, they're a mafia state. They're a mafia state. I mean,
God damn. Like they're in Darfur right now.
It's so frustrating. They're in Darfur. They're all over the place. Well, they also, they don't think they're at war with Ukrainians. They think they're at war with the U.S.
Right.
I mean, that's
That
their
whole proxy
mentality.
war bullshit is
Because
it,
and it's all well. Oh, our good little pat on the head, Slavic brothers. You've been seduced away by the evil Americans.
well, we are very seductive. I will give that to us. I got it. Guilty as charged. If I may. What are you going to do about it? All right, I can't. It's not my fault. All your men look like a fire plug now.
So
It's
this
not,
whole democracy thing is so attractive. I'm so sorry.
It is. It is. And
You
we're
know,
always walking around in
but if you
short
think-
skirts.
I know. But if you think that this is constrained to a couple of maybe if you
Oh my God.
you're of the mind that Gaza and all the rest of it was put together, or at least highly supported by Russia. It's not. It's everywhere. We are already in a global conflict with Russia.
Right. Well, it was always going to be. The idea was that World War III was going to be an information war, or like the Cold War was effectively was World War III. It was an information war. It was a propaganda and technology war, and that essentially what World War I was to World War II. The Cold War is to what's happening now. It's like a mix of hot war in certain places, but essentially the greater part of the war is the exaggeration. And at some point, it's going to more than likely come to a conclusion, sadly enough, by effectively what's, I guess, the equivalent of a cyber Nagasaki and Hiroshima is the idea. That's the concern. And by the way, it won't. Yeah. It'll play out the exact same fucking way. It's not going to be. They're going to do a cyber Pearl Harbor, and we're going to do a cyber Nagasaki. But the only difference is that unlike a nuclear bomb, we can keep civilians from being harmed. We can just seize up every military thing you have. And I got news for you. Like I said, there is no fucking way that we're not playing nice with the Russians because we want them to, we're hoping that they just learn their lesson, get the fuck out, and we don't have to show our hand and what we're capable of before they do it. So this isn't a bait us out to see what skills we have, which, by the way, is not below them. It is not below the Russians to attack Ukraine just to see what NATO has up its sleeve. It would be worth it just for that, up to this kill point. Now that they've reached 390,000 dead, I don't know what the fuck the payback is, but still, to their mind, differences make. He's Dr. Evil at this point. How many people do you need on a hollowed out volcano island?
It's Dr. Strangelove is what it is. But Yuri, you can't have a deterrent weapon if you don't tell us you have the weapon.
Right. Why didn't you tell the world, eh? Yeah, right. That's right. The whole point of a doomsday weapon is that you warn people. Why didn't you tell them? I'm sorry, Mr. President. He's a little bit drunk. Well, I'm sorry, Dimitri.
No,
I'm sorry. Well, I'm sorry. I know you're sorry, and I'm sorry. Well, we're both sorry, Dimitri. We're both very, very sorry.
Such a classic.
Well, all right. Now, one of our pilots went.
Well,
and
I like talking. He went a little nuts.
I like talking to you. I like calling just to talk. Right?
But I would call to just say hello.
I would call just to say hello. I would say hello. Listen,
I'm not calling now to just say hello, but I would. Oh, Peter Sellers, I worship you.
He's a little bit drunk. Shoot the lock off, you twit! All right. You're going to answer to the Coca-Cola. Right.
Boy, we could just quote the hell out of that.
Oh, God, it's so worth it.
No fighting in the war room. No fighting in the war room.
Gentlemen.
There's no fighting.
There's no fighting in the war room. And the funny thing is, the dude did have a camera, and he was trying to take a picture of the big board, which is like, what the fuck does that tell you, other than the information that he's already shared that they have? So it's amazing, right? That he still wants pictures of the shit that they've already been discussing. It's so fucking dumb. Not because, if you think about it, it's not because the Russians want that information. It's so that once he goes back home, they know he wasn't part of a scheme to lie to them in some other way. It's just covering his ass. It's so great. Anyways, by the way, speaking of the big board, if I may, this is kind of interesting. There's no video confirmation yet, but apparently this is in the last 12 hours, 18 hours, whatever. There have been 4 major strikes in Crimea. Interesting places for them. That's the old seaport.
That's the naval. That's the naval power port.
Yep. There's the one. There's the backup port, which is where they, basically
Is that
hide
field-
behind. It's a
It's field
splurg
roasting?
blurger. I don't know. I can't read Russian, so yeah. And
roasting.
yeah. So, and this one's
Yeah.
been hit a couple of times. This is one of their like where they've come across they've had some like pre-strikes where they've come over in boats and planted a flag and fucked off and done it a couple times just to dick around with them. And there's this one I don't know, it's like a checkpoint sort of right here that boats go up and then they get in vehicles and they go, this checkpoint's been struck directly with fire. But it's a huge, big fucking deal. This goes to the bridge. E97 goes off to the Kirk's Bridge right over here. That's where that goes. Also, so
more power plants have been hit inside Russia.
That's right.
The latest one being a drone strike, which the Ukrainians openly say was theirs, and are now saying that, and this is incredible, is that their drone technology and the capability of their drone pilots is such that they can evade anti-aircraft fire. So they've got drones flying into Russia that when the Russians, put up anti-aircraft defenses, these drones can evade. It's just, this is the future of war. Is going to be drones and that kind of stuff.
Let me tell you
AI,
something.
drones.
I'm fairly certain, and I don't know what our the tech capability of our folks in the chat. I'm not sure where everybody's level is, but let's just I'll use you as an example, Phil. I don't know how techy you are.
Okay.
In general, as far as I don't know how much soldering you've done in your life. I would imagine a little bit, but the necessity of it's probably not entered into your transom, at least in a little while. And so, like the idea of like coating your connections with flux, and then and then putting a little solder on the circuit board first, and then a little bit of solder on the wire, and the little tricky things that you do when you're soldering together a board or something like that. Once I get you past that point, which will take you probably anybody in the chat room that doesn't have like Gene Wilder's shooting hand in Blazing Saddles, anybody in the chat, I can pretty much teach you how to do that in about 5 minutes, to the point where in a Grateful Dead, listen to me, Walking Dead scenario, even maybe at the Grateful Dead, I don't know, maybe, as long as you're not, you don't carry the brown Snoopy stamps. Anyways.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I could set up a line of 10 people soldering circuit boards to connectors in under 15 minutes. Like I could walk people through it. They're pretty easily, right? Yeah. You need 2 circuit boards about the size of a silver dollar and 4 brushless motors and some wires and a battery. That's a drone. The physical structure of it, I could I could take apart an Xbox and with a pair of fucking scissors cut the plastic out of the top of that and turn it into a drone shape, essentially.
And they're doing that. They're doing that here right now.
I could put 4 brushless motors in the corners, run wires to an electric speed controller, run that to a small, either a Raspberry Pi or a dedicated drone board, which you can get they're this big and you can buy them on the internet in a fucking box of dozens of them. You hook that up. You put a capacitor on there if you want to raise the size and the capability of it as far as its power overall. You can beta test nowadays with a laptop or a fucking iPad. You can run a little like connector to it, a C connector to your drone, and you can beta test it flying to make sure it will fly before it ever leaves the fucking ground. And then you can you can put a GPS on there, like a camera, and the all in maybe at this point like $120. Not like the frame.
If that.
Yes. I could literally teach a class on how to put that together in a fairly short order.
Have you seen these new Ukrainian drones?
Yes.
they're about this size.
Yeah.
And they're just bare bones. It's just
yes.
They are innovators, these Ukrainians.
Yes. Well, and again, I gotta say, it's like drones are, the complicated part of a drone is the software that drives the controller, is the balancing aspect of that. As long as the stuff, the gear you have works. Like the motors you have operate at the same speed because they're good. They're decent, little motors, and they'll go forwards and backwards. Because I don't know if you know this,
Right.
but the one on the front left has to go clockwise and the one on the right has to go counterclockwise or vice versa. And the same thing in the back. Otherwise, the whole fucking thing will spin, which is hilarious because now the U.S. has a gun that you can shoot at a drone and literally just change the calibration on the brushless motors in it, the speed to reverse that, effectively make them all spin the right way and it'll go and that's it. It's pretty fucking amazing. It looks yeah.
I've seen him in action. I've seen him in action here.
Right. I mean,
these kind of things.
Yeah. I mean, I literally could run anybody. Like, obviously I'm weird. I built my first 3D printer myself, and then I used parts of it to print parts for my other 3D printer. I'm weird. I get it. But there's a bunch of guys who are weirder than me on this shit. And if you set them at a fucking table with enough gear, they can crank these motherfuckers out in like a drone an hour, right? And that's true.
Well, and the threat of genocide is a great motivator.
Yes, it is. It's
So-
timely. Like, I'll show you something real quick. So this is, I have this guy over here, and I just got this not too long ago, and I've been like, this is a Delta 3D printer. It's really cheap. It's a fucking knockoff.
Right.
It's called the Frankenbox, and I honestly got it. And like I put together the interior of it, and like it comes with a frame, but you can build. I built the extruder in there. This part, which operates on little arms and does this, and I kind of built it A to see if I could, and B to see if it fucking. It just looks cool to watch because unlike a regular 3D printer that goes around, it's a lot slower, but it looks like a robot more because it's moving around like a finger. Anyways, the kits for these things are like $200. You can melt plastic, turn it into fucking into filament, just recycled plastic, just melt it the fuck down and make filament, and then print it through these things, and you're just making bodies for these fucking things.
Yep. Which is
Good
kind of
Lord.
what they're doing.
Yes, it is. And I sorry, now my head's running through like projects that I want. The problem with all these things is they just don't have a build size big enough for a helmet, and that's what I've always been looking for. It's just the ability to make an exoskeleton. Is it wrong? I just don't want to have to make it in parts. I want it to be printed all at once, and it's very difficult to try and chop it up, and every time I try to assemble them, I'm not impressed. So I mean, cosplay is fine, but this got to be functional, goddammit. I'm trying to fight crime. Anyways, it takes carbon fiber filament, though. That is cool.
Yay.
There
you go.
Well, once we get to Kevlar filament, then it's a good time.
Oh.
Let me show you something real quick, though. And and this is so.
Sure.
Like I told you about the Chinese budget and blah blah blah, and what they're having to go through right now. The Chinese stock market has lost in the last 3 years $6 trillion in worth. U.S. Not 6 trillion yuan, 6 trillion U.S. in the last 3 years. Now, some people think that China is the second biggest economy in the world. And those people are silly. And I used this analogy the other day, and I think it stands, that so if America's economy is a pat of butter, and the American populace is a piece of bread, we basically have just enough butter to cover the bread, right? With that one pat of butter, you unwrap it, and then you scoop it off, and you got just enough, right? And sometimes you're a little short, and it's sad, but basically the bread is eatable, and it's fine. Whatever. China has a slightly smaller pat of butter. We're like, whoa, their pat of butter is almost as big as ours. But they have 10,000 slices of bread. You see the difference? You see how that's not now Norway has a quarter the size of our pat of butter, and they have a cracker. You see what I mean? Yeah. Like that's how it works. You're like, oh, we got this covered. We can do both sides. Fuck, right? That's how you judge the health of an economy, right? Russia's in a similar situation.
Yeah.
Right?
Russia's situation is they take the pat of the butter and they just put it in one corner of the toast.
Yes,
And that
then
little corner is
they
lovely
eat it,
and tasty.
and
the
then
rest
they
is
just let
dry
butter
and
running
awful.
down their face, and you're just like, fuck you. And then they peel off pieces of the crust and throw it on the ground at the birds while their people are standing there going, can I get a little of that bread? And they're like, maybe. All right. But this is the Russian military budget. It's the screen size is too big for whatever, but here, I'll try and scale this down a little bit. Let's see, an alt brings this, there you go. Mm-hmm. So it's 29% of their entire budget is spent on their military. 29 fucking percent of their budget is spent, a third. Now, China does that on their, like a third of Chinese wealth is based on real estate. And after Evergrande took a giant shit over the last couple of years, but specifically in the last week, because the Hong Kong court said that thing's got to be liquidated, there are two other companies right behind it that have just as much debt and are on the verge of collapse. And both of them are government owned. So imagine Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, or macaroni and cheese and hot dogs, whichever your two favorite things are, having more debt than than a third of the people in the country make ever. The 1%. I mean, including the 1%. It's just fucked up. So this is Russia. 29% of their public spending is spent on defense. The United States, we spend 11% of our governmental spending on our military. Mm-hmm. Now, that's a lot of fucking money. There's a lot more. There's a lot more money. Our economy's bigger. Our economy's the biggest in the world by far. Here's the UK though. They spend 5.29%. France 3.3%. Germany 2.75%. NATO altogether on the average 4.3%. You remember all that shit about Trump? Like, I made them. Oh, they weren't paid up, and they all paid up. Every NATO country, the minute there's a war, their entire military is dedicated to it. All of their military spending is NATO spending. It's just whether or not they pay for the exercises or some shit like that. And we have leftover money to train them because we're going to be one of the biggest. We want them to dance to our tune, so we coordinate a lot of this shit. But so NATO's spending includes, on top of it, all this, right? All the extra, they spend, whatever. The UK spends 2.4% on their NATO stuff, and then 5.29% of their military. If anything goes down in Europe, where they attack one of the NATO countries, they're all in, motherfucker. That's how Article 5 works.
Yep.
And at that point, they're ahead of us in their commitment. So, anyways, but can you imagine knowing this and knowing that that heating oil is gone and your electrical grid is faltering, like you're living in South Africa right now?
Your roadways are just, they're just inoperable.
Yeah. Right.
In large parts of their country. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's fucking.
There's got to be a breaking point. There's got to be a breaking point.
Right.
And we'll see what it is. I don't know. I don't know yet. I don't know if we're close to it yet. The protests that we see, like the, the women's, the soldiers' wives marches.
Yeah.
I think people are taking too much stock in those because those they're not protesting the war. They're protesting that their men are not being given leave. Mm-hmm. They don't have an ethical or a moral or a political or a military objection to the war. They just want their men to be able to occasionally come back home and rotate in and out. And that's what they're angry about. So I don't know if we're at that breaking point. And again, Russian history being what it is, there tends to be a crisis point. Right. That it doesn't get nutty until it really gets nutty. And I don't know. We're going to see that.
Well, Solovyev, I think it was yesterday, the day before.
Oh, my God.
He's
been spinning out. He has been losing his mind.
Yeah. Well, because he's seen the numbers and he's convinced his big thing was we don't have enough men in the country. Not fighting men, because that's obviously true. Just males, because I don't know, fuck. It's almost like he's expecting a knock on his goddamn door.
Yeah.
I mean, here's
It's
the
been
thing. I don't know why he hasn't
interesting to see that.
volunteered. Elvis went to war, you dumb motherfucker. Sure, Donald Trump faked bone spurs, but I mean, come on. You know,
he likes to cosplay. Somebody
Yeah.
goes to the front line every now and then. He cosplays
right.
as a soldier. It's been interesting to watch the contrast recently when it comes to this whole idea of like drafting more men or another mobilization, because we're having a very controversial moment here right now, and this may be one of the reasons why the Zelensky rift may be happening, is because there's a really big discussion about a mobilization bill that's been proposed to draw up, tens of thousands, well over 100,000 actually, I believe is the number, Ukrainian soldiers, and they are debating it because hey, guess what? Ukraine's a democracy.
Yeah, right.
They sent a bill to the Rada, the Ukrainian parliament, and they rejected it. They said no. Go back to the drafting board. This is not going to work. This is too much of a strain on our population. Go back, restructure this, and send it back to us, because there's a democracy here. In Russia, if Putin decides there's another mobilization, there's going to be a mobilization,
right?
No matter what, it's just going to happen. Now, whether or not there'll be some sort of fallout for him because of it, well, we'll have to wait and see. But this is the difference between Russia and Ukraine. Yet another example. This place is a functioning democracy. We've had seven different leaders since 1991, I believe is the number, in Ukraine, whereas in Russia, since the fall of the Soviet Union, they've had two, because Medvedev was always just a sock puppet. This place is as flawed as it is a functioning democracy,
right?
And so they do take into account mobilization.
Well, well, here's the thing. Democracies have to fight for themselves. This is part of the process. Human beings are flawed. You're never going to escape that, especially the more people have a say in something. That's the issue, right? That's the thing. Whereas there are equally flaws in dictatorships, but they are singular. And you don't get to, they're in most cases uncorrectable.
Until they become a crisis.
Right, until something, obviously.
Until something boils over and it all goes to hell. Look, we'll see how this goes. We need to stop fucking around.
Yeah,
we need. I come back to being so angry at the GOP with this whole thing about holding up Ukrainian aid. I mean, I urge anybody who has been listening to me speak on your program since this war started. I mean, if you call or write your representatives, if it's embarrassing. I mean, it's not just embarrassing. And I don't want to go overboard on this. I'm still a very proud American. I'm not ashamed.
Right.
But there is a sense of, God damn it, we could do this better. I know we could do this better.
Right.
And
again,
we just need to put pressure on our elected.
Well, here's one of the things is that it is good that we have these checks on where we can send military gear to and why, and that it does have to go through these things, even when it has to go through idiots like these assholes. That is the upside, because if not, Donald Trump, while he was in office, would have partnered our SEAL guys with fucking Wagner groups in all kinds of places, and then done Operation Keep the Oil, right? He's even talked about it. He's like, keep the oil. He says it about places, and the fact that he can't. Yeah, and that he doesn't, or couldn't, is crucial. So again, I would rather have these hangups. It's like when Republicans complain about
I have no problem with that. I have
things you have to jump
absolutely
through.
no problem with that.
Regulations you have to
Yeah.
jump through to get
And
stuff
that-
built
and
or whatever,
that's
and it's like that's
fine.
that's why it stays up. It's why we have old bridges in this country. One of the reasons why we haven't updated our bridges in a long time is because they fucking stay up. It's an anomaly and a big fucking surprise when one of them falls down, and it's usually one that was built during a period of time when there was a Republican administration or people who were cool with looking the other way and having their own American version of Chinese tofu drag, and they're like, what's the fucking, why do you have to check twice? What the hell, And then you're like, well, because 27 years later, the other bridge is still up and this one fucking fell over. That's why. Because we give a shit about our people and we care about the legacy of the stuff we're building long after we're dead.
And I
That
have
ain't a
no,
thing.
I
Yeah.
have no problem with
Right.
it going through the proper channels and being allocated, the aid, the weaponry, the
Mhm.
spending, all the rest of it.
Mhm.
100%. That's fine. What I
Right.
don't appreciate is what the GOP has done, which is so craven. And so, I mean,
Yeah.
they never intended to send aid to Ukraine because they tied it to the border and they didn't want to solve the border. To me, that it is
Mhm.
so, every single damn Republican, who played that game needs to be voted out of office. It's shameful. People are dying here, man. People
Yeah.
are dying on the border. They're dying in Gaza. All of these places. This is life and death shit.
Right.
And these people are fucking around because they want their orange god back in the Oval.
Mhm.
I know we're better than this. I do. I know we're better than this.
Well, again,
We've gotta get
here's
our
the
shit
weird thing
together.
about, and we're out of time, but I want to thank you for coming on
Yeah.
and make sure everybody checks out your vlogs, and
Sure.
we'll catch up again on Saturday. I have no
You know
doubt
we
there'll be
will.
more information on these.
I won't
the
be able to
Crimea hits.
swear though.
Fuck. But here's the
Fuckity,
thing:
fuck.
if
Get it out
Trump
now.
and the Republicans think that the Russians are going to help them solve this problem once he gets in office, just to make him look good, they got another thing coming. Because what they'll do
Yeah.
is give him a 6-month reprieve, so it'll look like he did something, and then they're going to start flooding it again when he gets near. The caravans will start like, oh, remember the caravans? I made up the word caravans. I like them called because I don't care, and they're not in vans. They're going to start
They're
those things
useful
up
idiots.
again. They're going to
They're
start those things
useful
up again
idiots.
to scare, voters towards Republican policies or more draconian policies and the like. While at the same time, he will scuttle any, while they'll lock down the border, but let our intellectual property rush right out the door to China or to Russia, where they will use it to fucking wipe out entire populations in Africa and South America because America bad. The number of fucking progressive fellow travelers with these motherfuckers is like embarrassing, and that's where they get a little bit of a cover.
And
Horseshoe theory.
the whole bullshit of if we just stop messing with the Russians wouldn't mess with us. Bullshit. It's dyed in. It's cooked into the cake. They hate America, and they hate the Anglo-American alliance in particular. They hate the Brits and they hate the Americans.
Well,
The Anglo-Saxons is what they say.
I mean, the best,
And that's
I
not
think
going to change.
No, there's
It's
a
not
really
gonna
good
change
example.
until there's significant change in Russia.
And bless everybody in the chat. I love you guys, but it's a really important difference to make. Is that I was talking about the strikes on the Houthis, the response by the U.S. government, and the targeted ones, by the way. So they hit 19 sites in 6 different areas. No civilians killed, nothing. Targeted strikes by the U.S. and the U.K. They literally put their pilots in danger by lasering them, and from nearby. They literally had airplanes flying over, lasering the site so that they could target specifically, so that they wouldn't land outside of it. Put our pilots in danger to do that specifically, and I was talking about the nature of that. And somebody was saying, basically piping up in the chat, and bless their hearts. Again, I think this is just weaponized empathy. They don't realize it. But they were like, stop bombing. And I'm like, first of all, I don't think the Houthis can hear you. Secondly, they didn't do this because of Gaza. They didn't do this because they actually give a shit. Nobody robs banks and keeps the money to prove that the society doesn't want to fix homelessness. They don't give a fuck. They're opportunists in this particular time, and they can use it as cover. I mean, none of that money or any of the sports going. It's not. They hit a Russian fucking naphtha tanker recently. The most recent hit was on a Russian tanker
the Houthis?
selling.
Yeah.
Yes, hit a Russian tanker selling the plasticizing agent that comes from petroleum, where you make plastics out of it. That was shipping through the air. It's not Israeli oil. It's not even Russian oil. It's not illegal. It was sold below the cap. It's it's within the confines of international law, and it's traveling in international waters. And they were like, you know what? I don't know. The couple of Indian guys working the top deck on this thing, fuck them. I hope they die because they happen to be in the area when I'm pissed off. That's fucking ridiculous. Anyways, our dear friend in the chat, I forget who it was, said stop bombing. And I was like, first of all, they tell that to them. Tell that to the Houthis, because we weren't bombing them before this. We had stopped bombing forever against the Houthis, essentially, once they had kind of come to a draw with the Saudis. We weren't even doing it, but we were supplying them because they were bombing into Saudi Arabia, right? And we basically stood down from helping them in that regard, and we hadn't been doing anything. Until these motherfuckers started firing on merchant marines on ships, deck swabbers and fucking hands who don't owe anybody anything. They're away from their families and their communities for months at a fucking time, trying to make a good wage, but a dangerous one. Jesus Christ. And these motherfuckers are going to bomb them because they're in the neighborhood? What the fuck? It's like justifying drive-bys everywhere, during Prohibition. Like when the Italians used to shoot Irish places, or the Irish would shoot up Italian places because you want to audit the Fed. You didn't believe in income tax starting. Good Lord. But they were like, stop bombing. I'm like, these are retaliatory. They don't have to happen at all. And they're only happening because these guys are doing this to civilians in international waters. The weird part is that we will, when they stop bombing, when the Houthis stop bombing these ships in international waters stuff, we're going to stop striking them. We will. But you know what they're going to continue to do? Take child soldiers, take child brides, murder other Yemenis, kill anybody that's on the border of Saudi Arabia that even gets too fucking close, not even giving a shit whether they're Sunni or Shia or any other derivation or whatever. They're going to kill any Jew they come across if they're ever out and about. And they're going to continue to pirate hands-on just like the Somalis do. It has nothing to do with anything else in the world. This is that's what they do. That's what the Houthis do.
Yeah.
It's not what the Yemenis do.
Well, again, we've had this conversation many times.
Yeah.
And I know we're
Same
trying to
thing
close out here, but we've had this conversation many times. There are those of us in the West and in America in particular that have a really the idea of America as as this unique presence on the globe, the American that it's this kind of exclusive
that we're responsible for all we are the Illuminati.
It robs the rest of the world of agency.
Right.
There are bad people out there who do bad things. The Russians here in Ukraine, for example, the Houthis, whoever, you take your pick. There are bad people who, whether or not America is the top of the pyramid, the food chain, whatever it is, those fuckers are still going to be fuckers.
Yes.
And to say if America was taken out of the equation, everybody else would be unicorns and rainbows.
Dude, when we are, they just start punching down. What the fuck do you think Wagner's doing in Africa?
Yup. Yeah. Yeah.
And again, I anybody who's like, I don't know whether the Mueller report and Russia and the collusion and whether Vladimir Putin constantly saying Trump saying that Vladimir Putin's strong and smart and all that kind of shit. That's, it's just kind of a wash, and I don't really care. It doesn't, no skin off my nose. Go read what the fucking Wagnerites did to pregnant women in Somalia, and then shut the fuck up. Good Lord. There are very few things that horrify me.
Or the hundreds of children the ethnic cleansing here in Ukraine, the hundreds of thousands of children that have been stolen away from their parents or have been orphaned by a war that Russia started, and then they have taken them and adopted them so that they can be de-Ukrainized. I mean, look, evil people
on and on and on and on and on. And then the next time, and tell you what, the next time the United States does a political action in a country, or we support Ukraine, or we give UN peacekeepers in a place like Rwanda and stuff, at any point, if we abduct the children of those people and forcibly make them forget their language and their culture and hand them over to American families to teach to be American, then I'll join in the complaints with you. I will absolutely join hands with you in this fantastical bullshit dystopia that you have made up in your head that already exists but doesn't at all in your fucking, left-leaning Alex Jones fever. I'll be right there with you in Never Land. Anyways,
and I hope my
Phil,
Niners do win because Taylor Swift and whatever the quarterback did. Anyhow.
Oh, Kelsey. Yeah,
that's
Kelsey.
the weirdest damn conspiracy theory. Anyways, we could talk for hours.
Yes,
you and I both
appreciate it,
know
brother. Yeah, so I've got a show this afternoon, and you've got vlogs people need to check out.
And I got stuff to do. But also, just before I go, seriously, I'm done fucking with these GOP people. Call your congressman, write to your senator, do whatever it takes. Get the people on the Hill to get their shit together and start and restart supporting Ukraine. Seriously,
right.
please,
absolutely,
call, write, whatever it takes. That's
I said a little bit ago that and the major says it's one of my most quotable lines, I guess, or whatever, but that MAGA Republicans, especially in the House, care more about helping Vladimir Putin expand his borders than they do about protecting our own. And that
spot on.
It's absolutely true. And by the way, both of them have the same benefit, that by letting the border stay open so that, Putin's coordinated attacks on our border can continue to happen in his fucking footsie or Dixie, as we call it, with the cartels down there, and his continued attacks on Ukraine to destabilize parts of Europe and suck the wind out of democracy. It's all tied together. It doesn't have to be a conspiracy where people whisper together. It can just be that they're fellow travelers in the world. Some are monarchists, some are dictatorists, some of them are just fucking fascists, but they all ultimately want the same thing. And they don't care that one of them will have to eat the other when it's over, like the Japanese and the Germans would have faced it had they won World War II. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm glad you were able to swear and tell it like it is. Be safe.
Too right.
Yes, and on Saturday,
no place is safe in Ukraine, So that's what I'm talking about. We need air defense here, and if we don't, and if the aid doesn't restart, they're going to be more and more forced to decide: do you protect the cities, or do you protect the front line? And no country should be forced to make that decision.
That's right. Appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much.
All right, buddy.
Everybody.
All right, we'll talk on Saturday.
Yes, follow him on all of his socials, and also check out. Go to is it Philip Bittner? Is philipbittner.com routing to your things yet? Do we? Yes.
Yep. It's out there. I got some irons in the fire that's distracting me from making vlogs, but they're coming back soon.
Great. Excellent. Thank you so much, brother.
Some even more exciting stuff, but it's too early.
All right.
Yeah. See you on Saturday. Thanks,
no spoiler alerts. All right. Be safe.
No spoiler alerts. Call and write your congressman.
That's right. Thanks so much, Phil. Appreciate it. Cheers. And there he goes, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys so much for sticking around. I know I wrote, whoops, what the shit? Go out of here. Leave. Quit that. I don't know why my window just got all gigantic again. It's so weird. My chat just, like the size of the chat just exploded. It's very strange. And there we go. I'll shrink it down so that I can actually fucking see it. Beg your pardon? Yes, we cannot let Ukraine die. And by the way, but the Biden administration is doing you son of a bitch, is doing a shit ton of stuff behind the scenes and with the authority they already have to get stuff over there. Interestingly enough, let me see if I can bring this up. Is this happening? Why is the audio not coming for this? Okay, I don't see it in there. Maybe not. Okay. I don't know. I thought I could get audio from this, but Biden apparently just made remarks about the border on his way to a campaign event. I'll have that for you later because I'll play that as part of our talk about border shit, because the right wing are flipping out about the fact that the Democrats are winning the conversation about the border, by the way. Like the truckers heading down there, all that bullshit, it would have worked. It really would have, maggots. It really would have worked in maybe early 2021 at the latest. It certainly would have worked in 2016, 17 or something like that when you're trying to pressure the House or the Senate Democrats to give Trump some sort of draconian power. It ain't working now. It just looks fucking silly. It looks silly. And most Republican talkers on the internet and on the radio are like, putting all this, it's just another, they're going to Jan 6 ya, which is what they keep saying. They're going to use it to make you look bad because you're going to go down there and do bad things, which is whatever. Also, can I give you here? This just happened as well while we were talking. There we go. This is another story. This is last week, but Hewlett Packard revealed that they'd been hacked by Russians. That were the same ones apparently that did the Microsoft email. Yes, the Microsoft email attack or whatever. I love the names of these. Midnight Blizzard. They were the ones who attacked Microsoft, and they also attacked Hewlett Packard. Now, interestingly enough, the Microsoft one's not surprising. When they hit Apple, Microsoft, or Google, they're obviously going to try and strike them. And anytime they can get through, it's more like, oh, we put a notch in ourselves. It's like making Drago bleed in their mind. They're like, see, that guy took a piece of them. Even if they get their ass kicked, it makes them look, they can go, we're the group that did that little hack that they couldn't figure out for about 35 minutes, right? So if you hit one of the biggies, it's not because you think it's going to be successful, but because you're going to, you're going to be able to like show off and sell your services on smaller things. Now, Hewlett Packard, if you'll recall, Hewlett Packard is the company that I think, Betsy DeVos or whatever was part of a group that was helping sell Hewlett Packard technology, computers, laptops, and as printers, all printers, which are illegal. And they were selling all this gear as printers and like basically avoiding sanctions by going around it. And they were doing it with Hewlett Packard gear. And Hewlett Packard is very big gear in Iran because of that. There's a lot, because they've got access to this stuff and they've had it for a long time. And so they've, learned on it and used it and blah, blah, blah. So it's interesting to me that they struck Hewlett Packard. Is it directly tied, or are they just mad because they need to update their software, which is entirely possible, right? That is entirely possible that some of these companies they hack because sanctions don't allow them to update their technology, including the software updates. So they go in and they steal the new op system or the new firmware. They have to steal it to illegally feed it into the machines, the older machines that they have. So that's not surprising at all. The other thing is that, by the way, this is what Hamas is fighting for. Secret Putin residence discovered near the Finland border. Apparently, this is another one of his houses. Now, can I just say, this looks like it looks like a mini version of the Avengers compound. Motherfucker. It's aggravating. Pretty sure, I mean, it's a ripoff of of a Frank Lloyd Wright, but still, it's a cool place on the river. I would have if I was that rich and had that place, I would have I'd have a fake Loch Ness monster that came up out of the water every so often, just out of sight, like way down here, so that I could take my, my kid or my grandkids down there and go, around this time of day, sometimes if you look really hard, you can see Nessie come out. Just rig it for them. That would be fucking amazing. Anyway, so this is near the Finland border. This is basically another. Yeah, it's like another a Hydra compound. Yeah, the Finns are fucking pissed at Russia, and they should be, because, again, they're fucking with their border, and this is border control. The other thing, too, is I'm gonna, let's see, go back to the chat. There you are. Boing. Come back, chat. Where have you gone? Back, chat. Come on now. Why you gotta be like that, chat? Is it not? It just doesn't want to. All right. Well, I guess you don't want to talk to me anymore. Fine. Fine. That's fine. That's just fine. You know what? God damn it. Why chat room? Why? Go back to this. See if I can go back to here and see if it'll open back up. Sometimes it just has to be a dick. Let's see. Show. Enable better TV. I commands. Browser settings. With the thing. Refresh cache of current page. Okay. Oh, there you are. See, look at that. I refreshed the cache. And there you are. You're back. Yay! Don't forget to hit the like on your way out the door. Also, patreon.com/HalSparks. And support the show in any way that you can. Again, most of that is just sharing it, letting people know, seeing the clips, that kind of stuff, and especially the morning show, which is an amorphous blob of ideas and stuff. And I mean, literally today, if I had a whiteboard right next to me, I could draw you a fucking diagram on how you could wire a drone right fucking now. I'm just saying. Might have to do that later. Yeah. Or you could just super chat. Just saying. That would also help. Just super chat or bits or any of that kind of stuff. Hype train. I will see you guys later.
Cash.
Take care.
Green. I mean green cash.
That's true. That's right.
Cash. Green. I mean green cash.
That's right. That's the. I mean, some cash in the world is a different color. Just saying. But the only kind I need is the ace of spades. No. So I will see you there. Yeah, over 1,300 likes. Just hit that like on your way out the door. It's almost everybody. And and on the other hand, like I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but later on today, I have